Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. Let's take a quick look about the new LTS and new LTS long-term support. So first things first, my name is Brian van Baekel. I'm working at Open Source ICT Solutions, and I'm working as Zabbix trainer and Zabbix consultant. So that's the only thing we do as a company. Basically, Zabbix work, consultancy, trainings, support, troubleshooting, integrations, you name it. So, like I said, let's take a quick look about what's going on in a new long-term support version. Unfortunately, we are talking about it, but it's not yet released. Actually, that is, well, mainly due to the vast amount of improvements that is, well, being developed into this version. It's expected soon. At this point, I think there is only one person in the world knowing the exact release date. That's the CEO of Zabbix. I hope within 2 or 3 weeks, but again, I don't have a set date. So we can only wait till it is finished, till it is being released, and then start enjoying that vast amount of new features. What's going on with those releases? What's going on with that delay? Why are things being delayed anyway? Well, Zabbix is following a release train where we have standard releases and long-term support releases. With the standard releases, they are always released every 6 months, and then at some point there is a long-term support version released. That long-term support version is supported for 5 years, with 3 years of full support, 2 years of limited support. So that's 5 years in total. Once an LTS release is released, we start with the next standard release, which is 7 months, 6 months supported. Normally up to the next standard release plus 1 month. And then the next standard release, the .4 in this case, is being released 6 months later, next long-term support. Following this train, we have a new LTS version roughly every 1.5, 2 years. And hopefully the LTS versions are the stable versions. So the standard releases are typically, packed with new features, experimental things, sometimes some small problems, but mostly about features. Long-term support, stable releases. So what's going on in those, stable releases, LTS release, and what's going on especially in 6.0? One of the most anticipated features, at least by us, is native high availability. So you install a Zabbix server, you install another one database, and with just 2 lines, 3 lines of configuration, you have native high availability. It's only about the Zabbix server and the front end. So unfortunately, the database is not included, which actually means that if you want to have a high available database, you have to figure out a different solution. And that might be something in Postgres or something in MySQL. That doesn't really matter, but it's only server front end. Not sure if you have ever built an active cluster, a Zabbix cluster, an HA cluster, but due to how the processes are used within Zabbix, active standby was the only thing that was possible. With this new solution, with this new feature in 6.0, that's still the same. So we just have an active standby Zabbix cluster. And from there, you just start adding nodes, adding them to the high available cluster, and bam, there you are. How to get this going? Well, actually, that's a very good thing. The Zabbix servers are using the database. So what you do, in the database, you create new users. Those users are purely used for authenticating the Zabbix server. Then in the Zabbix server config, you edit 2 parameters. One HA node name, which is the name of your node, and HA node address, the external IP address of the node, which is actually used for high availability of the front end. So then you can log into the front end of either IP address, and the front end will figure out which server to talk to. So then suddenly the front end is high available as well. 2 lines of configuration, a few minor adjustments in the database, and it just works. We've extensively tested this feature, and it seems rock solid. There was one race condition we identified. Zabbix fixed it. It seems rock solid right now, and pretty good actually. Pretty good. What else was highly anticipated? Services. So business level monitoring, business service monitoring. It was available in Zabbix for, I think, the past 10 years or so, but it was, well, a bit limited and hard to configure and not covering all cases. So what Zabbix actually did for this LTS release was completely reworking it from scratch. Completely reworked. I think basically there are 2 things that are still the same with the old version: the name service and the name SLA. The rest new. What they did with the introduction of Zabbix 5.4, basically everything is based on tags, and yeah, they are using those same tags in the services as well. So suddenly we have a lot more flexibility in those services. One of the things that was lacking in the older releases were propagation rules or alerting. Well, like I said, it was built from scratch, so they included it. And the same thing goes with reporting. All the versions, it was possible to, well, see in the front end of Zabbix what was going on, but it was not really possible to build reports out of it. Fixed. That one is included as well. And just like the older releases, root cause analysis is included. A little bit better because we have all those tags and child services. So it's again an improvement there. And it's really, really helpful. What's still the same is that parent-child relation. So in the older versions, we had already parent-child relations. Well, that concept is maintained. But yeah, the reporting and the actions, those are completely new. And if you look at the right side, right down side of the screen, you can actually see some reporting there. So we are looking at, well, the thing that's called SLA with an SLO of 99.9%, and it should be reported daily at midnight UTC with a 24/7 schedule. So it's really building reports out of the services. Now try to do this one in the older versions. Nope, that was not possible. So really, really nice improvement if you ask me. It's a bit hard to configure because it's highly flexible. But once you get the hang of it, it really helps you monitoring your, well, business service levels, business service level monitoring. Okay, next one, audit logs. Another nice improvement there. Perhaps not used that often, which is actually good. But in the older versions of Zmix, we had audit logs already, and it was always lacking. So there were quite a few things that were not written into the audit logs. And again, they identified that problem, threw away basically everything, and reworked it from scratch. What is stated on the slide, almost everything is logged now. Why almost? Well, at this point, when we created this webinar, they were still developing, well, parts that should be written into the audit logs. So hopefully by the time 6.0 will be released, everything is included. Otherwise, it will come later in those minor releases. What we can see, left part audit logs, And well, we have a time, a user, IP address, resources, etc. But right now we also have the record set ID. And if you click on that one, you get the details, and then you can actually see what is going on in that record set. So at the right side, we see the details, and we can actually see that the trigger was added. On the trigger, there were comments. There was a trigger expression being used, trigger flags, etc., etc., etc. So it is really giving a lot more information in one record set. So we can actually track down what users were doing instead of, well, just a changed resource somewhere. Like I said, hopefully you will not need this one too often. But once you need it, it's there for you. It's complete. It works perfectly fine. And it's well, of course, basing on time. So you can just filter on the time. You can filter on the username, IP. You can filter on the trigger or on the resource name or the action or etc., etc., etc. Again, full flexibility here. So another nice improvement. Personally, I think this one is the most complicated, yet exciting. Anomaly detection. So baseline monitoring, basically. We have a few functions for it. Trend STL, that's, well, looking at the trend data. But also with baseline monitoring and anomaly detection, we can tell Zabbix to find and to identify anomalies. How is it doing it? Well, it's taking the data, so all the data points. It's taking the trend data so that it knows the long-term behavior. It's looking at the seasonal data. And based on those three, well, data points, data types, it can actually look for patterns. And well, at the remainder, you can see a nice pattern there where there is a steady line around 0. Then there are a few spikes around, what is it, 7,000 or something like that. And that's actually the normal pattern. But at the right side, where those two red circles are, those spikes are completely out of the normal pattern. So Zmix identifies it as an anomaly. And yeah, if it's an anomaly, you can get alerted on it, or you can execute automatic actions, etc., etc. So again, a new feature. We do not have that much experience with it yet, but at least this one is exciting. Really looking at, well, long-term data to see what's totally off from the pattern. Of course, it's not only about front-end improvements. I mean, at all places there are improvements, and one of them is, well, being able to monitor different things. So agent improvements. Getting back the host metadata from the Zabbix agent, mainly used for active agent auto-registration, but it was never really visible what the agent was presenting. And as it was not visible, as the data was not usable, it was hard to, well, do something with it, except for active agent auto-registration. So new item key was included, agent.host metadata, which is just giving back the host metadata. Another one, which I personally really like, net TCP socket count. And within the parameters, you can specify which port or which socket or etc. And it's just telling you the number of TCP sockets. And I think this is a nice improvement. Once again, a nice improvement. But it also goes with VFS dir get or file get. So VFS dir get is giving you a list of directory files as a JSON format. I love this one for log file monitoring. But also file.get is just giving you the information of a file. How big is it? Who is the owner? What's the permissions? When was it last modified? Things like that. If you're just interested in owner or permissions, no problem. The items are there. And then there was one other request. Which version of the agent are you running? And then I don't actually mean version 5.0 or 6.0 or something in between. I am pointing to Zabbix Agent 2 or Zabbix Agent 2. And previously it was, well, not possible to identify which agent was running on a host. Of course, when you log into that host, you were able to find out what was going on, but not natively. Problem solved, agent.variant, which is just giving you back whether this is a Zabbix Agent 1, the original one, or whether this is Zabbix Agent 2, the new one. Is it really used a lot for monitoring? Not sure. I don't think so, actually. Is it quite useful to see which version you are using, sorry, which type you are using, and therefore which features are available? Definitely. And from there, of course, you can take different actions again. What's also improved, and the first one is the one I really like, user parameters. So previously, when you added user parameters, you had to restart the Zabbix agent, which, well, it worked, but you had to go into a remote host, had to make sure you had sufficient permissions, and then restart the process. Unfortunately, if you made any typo somewhere, that the agent was not starting. And it happened, well, to me actually a few times, that you made a typo, tried to restart the agent, quickly logged off to find out 10 minutes later that that agent is not running. Oops. Well, what they did right now, Zabbix_agent D or Zabbix_agent 2 -R runtime control, user parameter underscore reload. We don't have to restart that whole process. We can just reload the user parameters. And from here, I actually see a few use cases where you can use front-end scripts to reload user parameters. We have a separate webinar regarding front-end scripts. So perhaps you want to attend that one as well to learn a bit more. But for now, user parameter reload. Okay, Zabbix Agent 2 plugins have their own config files. If, and probably you were using plugins on Zabbix Agent 2 already. If you're using Zabbix Agent 2, trying to configure plugins, you had to configure those in the Zabbix Agent 2 config file. Is that a bad thing? No, if you keep everything 100% default, no modifications, no problem. But the moment you tried to, well, made some changes to plugins, then suddenly that Agent 2 config file became extremely long, but also cluttered with a lot of different data. So what they actually did was separating the plugin configuration files from the agent configuration file. And that's giving you a few benefits. The agent config looks a bit cleaner, but it is also a lot easier to automate things simply because there are separated config files. So again, it seems like it's a small improvement or a small change. Actually, it's quite useful. Okay, that was agents. What else is changed? What else is new in this long-term support version? Database improvements and changes. And the first line seems like, wait, are they dropping support of the older versions? Yes, they are. Is it a bad thing? It depends. I think it's pretty good. At the same time, if you try to upgrade to those, well, newer LTS versions, you might have to take in account which version of database engine you are running. Yes, there is a parameter to, well, allow unsupported databases, but it is highly recommended to upgrade your database engine as well. And that's not only because Zabbix is not supporting the older ones anymore, but it's also because the newer versions, and we are talking about MySQL Percona 8, MariaDB 10.5 or 10.6, Postgres 13, Oracle 19 till 21, Timescale DB 2.0.1 till 2.3, and for the proxies SQLite 3.3.5. That's not only because Zmix is not supporting the older versions anymore, that's also because those newer versions have a lot of security improvements. but also performance improvements. And of course, when we are looking at the Zabbix database, performance improvements are always nice to have. In that same line, using UTF-MB4 is fully supported. So that actually means that another small limitation was dropped and we have full complete UTF-8 support. Again, seems like a small thing. Probably you won't notice it, but it's giving you performance improvements again. But also suddenly we can store emoticons in the Zmix database. Might be interesting. Another major thing, if you ask me, primary keys for history tables. So we have 5 history tables. All of them support primary keys. Is it a mandatory change? No, it's not. But if you are using primary keys, you get better performance. And it really depends on a lot of variables to specify how much better it is, but also less disk space. And the last tests that were conducted were showing around 30% less disk space. And that's significant. That's a lot. In order to get those primary keys going, because the older versions are not really supporting it, we have actually 3 options. Doing a fresh installation, and the new database will have primary keys. But then you don't have the historical data. We can do an upgrade, just a normal upgrade, how we should upgrade it normally. There's a webinar tomorrow about it. And then run a conversion script. Or, of course, the middle option, normal upgrade, ignore the primary keys. And then you won't benefit from that better performance or less disk space usage. Small note here from my side, that conversion script is taking a lot of time and a lot of database disk space. So if you want to use it, sure, but there are a few prerequisites which you definitely have to take in account. Again, tomorrow we will run a webinar how to upgrade, how to get this going, and then we will explain what to look after. But these 3 options are available. What's also included, and we are talking about a different topic here, we are looking at the front end, password complexity requirements. So I'm not sure how many users you were configuring within Zabbix, but typically when you quickly create a user, the password was welcome01 or password or something else that was definitely not the best choice for passwords, and telling the user, well, you should change your password. And of course, you can't see what kind of password that user was configuring. Passwords must be safe. So what we can specify right now within Zabbix is a password complexity requirement. There should be a minimum length. It should be having an uppercase, a digit, or a special character, or all of them, of course. I mean, go for it. Avoid easy to guess passwords. There is a dictionary with, from top of mind, the 100,000 most used passwords in the world. And yeah, if you check avoid easy to guess passwords, those passwords are not allowed. So again, a nice improvement there. I was kind of surprised with this one. Imagine I was installing some beta version, or I think even an alpha version, and I was just clicking through the menus, and suddenly I was in a completely different page. And that page was regarding services. What Zabbix did was adding a complete services menu. So in older versions, it was only visible on monitoring services. But since they added services, service actions, SLAs and SLA reports, there were just too many options. And this feature is too important to hide it on monitoring. So they included a new menu dedicated to services there. This will take some time to get used to it. And I'm pretty sure me myself will click quite a few times on the wrong menu because of the different order or an extra menu there. But yeah, we get services for it, and services are important, are interesting. So, okay, I think I will quickly accept this one. Monitoring overview. It was available and it was barely used. And those that were using it were always complaining, yeah, it's called an overview, but it's not really giving an overview. Personally, I barely used it because of, well, it's not giving me an overview. And Zabbix was cleaning up the menus, so this one is removed. Monitoring overview is not available anymore, at least not as a menu. It's still available as a dashboard widget. So it's not lost, it's not removed. It is basically, well, reordered and it's available as a dashboard widget. Another small improvement, yet important. If you look at the Zabbix menu, on the left bottom was a button share. And if you clicked on that one, it was redirecting you to share.zabbix.com. Well, share.zabbix.com is eventually on the list to be removed, and it is replaced by a Git repository. In order to give users an easy way to find things, they are not redirecting you to the Git repository, but they are they are replacing the share button to the integration page. And on that integration page, you can search by name or by category and just get all available options. And with all available options, I mean the official templates, I mean the official integrations, but also the links and documentation in that Git repository. So actually, I think this is the best of both worlds. It's giving you all the official integrations, it's giving you all the community integrations, and it's just on one page. From the front end of Zabbix, you can just click on the share link, bam, there you go. What's also changed, if you are in monitoring latest data, looking at all those items, and then you wanted to change the host name or linking a different template or adding an extra interface, you had to go to configuration host, find that host, change the configuration. And that were just too many clicks. What Zabbix did, if you go to the latest data, on the basically first column where host is stated, you can click on the host and there is an extra menu configuration. And that one is actually not redirecting you to configuration host. No, there is a pop-up, a layover with the host configuration. And if you look closely at that host configuration, we can even see more changes there. We can identify that there is no tab for templates anymore, but that's moved into the main page of the host configuration. So that's another change there. So they made it a lot easier to make a quick change in your configuration without navigating back and forth between different pages. What's not in this presentation is that in the newer versions, and that one was actually released in the Git, the Zabbix source code, I think just yesterday, is that if you click on the item key or the item name, you can change the configuration of that item. So again, it's not in this slide, it's not in this presentation because it was just too new. But in the final 6.0 release, you can click on the item name in latest data and immediately change the item configuration, which is massively improving the workflow when you are building your templates. Because from that item configuration, there is an extra button to go back to the latest data. So you don't have to open different pages anymore, clicking around, etc. It's just done by moving back and forth from one and the same page. That's another nice one. Whilst we are talking about configuration, have you ever had that issue that you were creating a new item, selecting type, I don't know, Zabbix agent or whatever type you selected, clicking on a key, populating everything that had to be populated, add that item and see that the item became unsupported. And then you had an error message with like value, whatever is not suitable for type of information, whatever. It happens all the time. And right now, Zabbix was like, okay, for a lot of item keys, we know what kind of data is returned. So automatic item type or type of information suggestions are included. And it works on a lot of different ways. If we type just the item key agent.hostname or whatever item key, Zabbix will change the type of information based on its knowledge. If you click on select a different item key, it will change it. And if you type another item key, it will change it again. So it is really helping you to give you the best type of information that might be suitable for this item. Of course, if you don't like it, for example, if I don't like the character here, we can just click, select another one, save it anyway. It's really about helping you, not forcing you. Helping you is also done in the configuration of the host. As mentioned, if you configure a host, in the older versions, it was add a new host, populate the host name, populate the interfaces, the groups, etc. Navigate to the second tab to link a template. And again, a few clicks, too much. So they moved the templates tab into the main host configuration. And it's preventing you for at least 2 or 3 clicks. Again, a small improvement, but a nice one. Another one, maintenance visible in the latest data. So in the older versions of Zmix, it was never possible to see if there was actually maintenance applied to a host or not. I mean, it was possible, but then you had to go into configuration host and see that yellow wrench, or you had to go to configuration maintenance and see whether which maintenance period was active, etc., etc. Right now, if a host is in maintenance, you just go to monitoring latest data, look at that host, and there it is, that yellow wrench is presented. It's just giving you that information while there is maintenance applied. So if you see a problem, it's not propagated, or even if you don't see data, that might be because there is a maintenance period without data collection. So that's a minor one, but it might help you quite a bit. What's not minor is this: monitoring latest data has changed. I think we all remember that applications were removed and that tags were introduced, and that actually happened in Zabbix 5.4, which seemingly was not a big issue unless you went to monitoring latest data. Because of the applications being removed, we had no easy way to sort out or to filter on different applications anymore. And that one was really, really bad. There are some community built front-end modules to revert that behavior, but still from the product perspective, it was a bad move. So they fixed it. There were a lot of different suggestions, but what they did in monitoring latest data now is basically the same filtering options as you have with configuration host, or with monitoring problems. So where's my cursor? Yes, here it is. We can still filter on a host group, or a name. We can type in the tags. That's not a problem at all. And then suddenly we get these subfilters. So we can filter on tag values. And of course, with data, without data. Absolute improvement here. And then they took it to the next level. here we have 2 tabs right now. And those 2 tabs are configured by me. Those are saved filters. So I selected one multiple host. I selected some sub filters, some applications, some tags with data, without data, etc., etc. And then I said save as. And I'm saving my filter there, just like I can do with monitoring problems. And this way it is extremely fast to get just the right data on your screen. I really, really like this one. It seems like a small difference, but this one is significant. What is also a small difference, and I'm pretty sure if I don't show you in the next slide, it might take some time before you even see it, is that they changed the last check from an absolute timestamp to the delay between the last check and the current time. So the old one was just showing the check was done 3 minutes before 2 at the 15th of January. The last one, the new view, is telling me that this item was checked 26 seconds ago for the last time. I don't actually care about the timestamp when it was last checked. I just care about how old is the data I'm looking at. Well, there we are. Small change, nice one. Are there more changes? Are there more improvements? How about these two? New widgets in the dashboard. If you go to the dashboard, then suddenly we have a single item widget. And it looks somewhat like Grafana. Well, perhaps a bit too much like Grafana, but that's a good thing here. We can right now select one item and tell Zabbix, show the value, show the behavior of this single item in the dashboard. And suddenly we have things like, well, show me the value cache or whatever item you select. Show me the last value there and show me what is happening with that value. So apparently, and I'm talking about the top left widget, the value cache was increasing. The value cache hit VPS was decreasing. It's 5.06 and it's lowered compared to the previous value. And oh, I was able to change the background. I was able to change the text there. I'm able to change the size of the text. I'm able to change the colors. I'm able to change basically everything there. Showing text, no problem. 6.0 Alpha 6, this one was introduced. The one at the bottom, normal 0, which was equal to the previous value, so nothing changed there. And this is giving a lot of options, a lot of flexibility in terms to reporting, because Zabbix reports are built on dashboards, and these are widgets in the dashboards. So we can get more appealing dashboards out of this, more appealing reports out of this. And of course, the dashboards as well. Another one, which I personally like, is the GeoMap integration. Why do I like this one? Well, it's just over a year ago, one of our customers approached us and they said, can you build Google Maps within Zabbix? And actually they came to me personally and I said, yeah, that should be possible. And I said, okay, go for it. So we made this integration as a front-end module. And a lot of people are using it. During the year, Zabbix development sent me an email and they said, Brian, can we take a look on how you built this, what kind of considerations you took, etc., and see what's here. It's not a front-end module anymore. It's a dashboard widget. But within that dashboard widget, we can look at geographical maps. We can plot different hosts on that map, and we can present how many problems there are on that host or on that marker. This one is absolutely great. In order to use this, we have to populate the inventory field latitude and longitude. And the inventory fields can be populated automatically. So we can have some sort of item that is getting out the GPS coordinates, pushing it in the according inventory fields, and start tracking where devices are. I love this one. In a lot of cases, this one is extremely helpful. Okay, are there breaking changes as well? Yes, unfortunately there are. Database support, older versions are not supported anymore. I already explained only the newer versions are supported. But if you do an upgrade right now and you try to start the Zabbix server whilst you did not upgrade your database engine, that Zabbix server will stop working and it will complain about an unsupported version. There is a parameter in the server config. And from top of mind, it's called allow unsupported database, which you have to switch over to 1 before the server will actually start. I think it's a minor inconvenience there, but it will definitely stop the upgrade process after it was finished. Because of the audit logs being reworked from scratch, the existing logs will be deleted. And that might be, depending on the regulations, depending on the policies, that might be problematic. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And they are switching from PCRE to PCRE2 regular expressions. Minor difference there, but some regular expressions might behave a little bit different than they used to be. So hopefully it's not breaking, it's not too much of inconvenience, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay. Do you want to learn more about Zabbix? There are official Zabbix courses. And the moment Zabbix 6.0 is released, those courses will be about the new Zabbix 6.0. So currently we are giving the user training, which is a 1-day training showing you the potential of Zabbix. The 5-day specialist training, which is really diving into configuration of the Zabbix instance. The certified the certified professional, which is a 3-day course telling you 1 day about low-level discovery, playing around with databases, high availability, etc. And we have a 5-day expert training, which is really going into Zabbix. And right now it's about Zabbix 5.0. The moment Zabbix 6 is released, those trainings are about Zabbix 6 immediately. The training is ready. We are just waiting for the release there. Next to that, we are, of course, providing support services. So we have different support tiers. And I don't know, if you purchase gold, you just get remote troubleshooting with tickets. If you purchase enterprise, then performance tuning, monthly progress meetings, 5 days on-site consultancy, user training, specialist training, professional training, all included in the support. And of course, we have, the cheaper level, silver, or the more expensive one, global one. Now you might think the product is free and open source. How do you guys make a living out of a free product? And that's not only how we as a Zabbix partner make a living, that's also about how Zabbix as a company makes a living. Well, basically we have the same business models. We are working with a free product, so there's nothing to gain there. But we are providing support contracts, trainings, upgrading your Zabbix instance to the latest versions, custom integrations, just like the GeoMap integration, turnkey solutions, building templates, doing remote troubleshooting or consultancy services. That's how we make a living out of a free product. As you can see, we are providing those services by various companies. So we are based in the Netherlands. We have a company in the United Kingdom, and we are present in the United States as well. So from those 3 companies, we basically serving the whole world. And we can help you with your Zabbix instance. Okay. Let's see. Right now, there are no questions in the Q&A, but this is the moment that if you have any question, please answer, or sorry, please ask them in the Q&A and I'll try to answer them. So go ahead. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay. Well, in case there are no questions, that was all I have for you today. Tomorrow, we are running a webinar, how to upgrade your Zabbix instance. And later this month or early next month, we have a lot of different topics regarding, I don't know, front-end scripts, Zabbix API, automation, SNMP traps, you name it. We are running webinars for it. So thank you for joining. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions, if you would like to know anything about Zabbix or us as a company, feel free to contact us. And otherwise, enjoy your day. And hopefully I will see you somewhere soon in another webinar.